This week on Vaticano, Mother Teresa is proclaimed a saint by Pope Francis. But who was Teresa of Calcutta before becoming a nun? We'll tell you all about her call within a call, how Jesus intervened directly and changed the life of the humble Sister Teresa. All of this and more coming up on Vaticano.
Beatam Teresiam de Calcutta, Santam esse discernimus et definimus, ac Sanctorum catalogo ascribimus, statuentes ean in universa ecclesia inter santos pia devotione recole devere in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
It's August the 26th of the year 1910 in the city of Skopje, what is now the capital of Macedonia. A child is born to a Kosovar Albanian family. The parents, Nikoli and Dranafil Bojacu, baptized their child on the following day and give her the name Agnes Gonche, meaning Agnes, Little Flower. In the future, the little flower was to bloom into Mother Teresa, a beautiful bouquet offered to the glory of God. Father Lush Djerch, Mother Teresa's biographer, says that to better understand who she was, it's important to get to know Agnes Gonche.
Per me, due sono stati punti fondamentali o focali.
For me, two were the fundamental and focal points of the life and work of Mother Teresa, a part of the centuries-old Albanian tradition that is based on altruism and on the hospitality. The house is of God and of the host. Then bread, salt, and heart are the signs that the guest has a sacred treatment. Whoever comes is representing God. This definition is then enriched even more with the gospel. When Jesus says, "Everything you have done to my little ones, you did it to me."
Il Vangelo, quando Gesù dice tutto quello che avete fatto ad uno dei miei più piccoli, lo avete fatto a me.
The Boyacus were a devout Catholic family. Nicole, father of Agnes, was a businessman, political activist, and benefactor. He loved his daughter and used to teach her that selfishness renders a person and others around them unhappy. He used to say that God has been generous with their family, so they should be generous with others.
All'età di 12 anni, lei per la prima volta sentì una certa inclinazione.
At the age of 12, she first felt a certain inclination towards the religious vocation, but she did not like to become a nun, neither to dress like a nun, so she says, "I fought with the Lord," and every year she went to the diocesan shrine of Letnice on August 14th. In 1928, at the age of 18, she makes the decision of her life. "I want to become a missionary nun to help the poor of the world," and she did.
Decisione della vita. Voglio diventare suora missionaria per aiutare i poveri del mondo. E lo ha fatto.
Agnes left home in 1928 to join the Sisters of Loreto at the Abbey of Rathfarnham, Ireland. The next year she arrived in India to begin her novitiate.
Il legame che il mondo non sa, perché lei dà.
The link that the world does not know is why she, being Albanian from Kosovo, born in Skopje, ended up in Calcutta in India. The link is very simple. The Jesuit fathers worked in Skopje. They had the mission to India in Calcutta and in Bengalia. So they wrote in the newspaper about the mission. Every once in a while, a missionary returned, so that for Mother Teresa, India became the land of
Per
dreams.
Madre Teresa, India è diventata la terra dei sogni.
Agnes took her first religious vows as a nun on the 24th of May 1931. She chose to be named after the patron saint of missionaries, Thérèse of Lisieux. But because one nun had already chosen that name, Agnes took the Spanish spelling of Teresa. After 6 years, in 1937, on May the 14th, Teresa made her final vows. For about 20 years, Sister Teresa taught geography and catechism at the Loreto Convent School in Calcutta when she contracted tuberculosis. Teresa was not able to continue working and was sent to rest and recuperate in Darjeeling. While she was traveling, she received her second call.
Il Signore intervenne.
The Lord intervenes vocation within a vocation in 1946. So in 1948, she leaves the congregation, and in 1950, strangely by Pope Pius XII, through the Archbishop, receives the permission to found the Missionaries of Charity.
Ha il permesso di fondare le missionarie della carità.
Teresa wanted that with the traditional vows of chastity and poverty and obedience, the members of the Missionaries of Charity would take a fourth vow, to give wholehearted free service to the poorest of the poor.
Nella vita e delle opere
In the life and works of Mother Teresa, there is the hand of God. There is providence because she is a unique missionary who does not have a classic missionary quality of converting others. Because if God is love, what should I do? I should love Him and give this love to the others. That is, give them to God.
amore agli altri, cioè donare Dio.
Be the living expression of God's kindness, kindness in your face, kindness in your eyes, kindness in your smile. Stay tuned. After the break, we'll be back with more on Mother Teresa. Welcome back. You're watching Vaticano. Before founding the Missionaries of Charity, Mother Teresa had ongoing communication with Jesus through words and visions. It lasted for about 1 year, precisely from the 10th of September 1946 to the 3rd of December 1947. Father Sebastian Vasacalla is co-founder of the Contemplative Brothers of the Missionaries of Charity. He worked along with Mother Teresa for more than 30 years. Father says that the visions of Mother Teresa were not known in her lifetime, even to himself. He discovered that she had them only after her death.
I have a document, handwritten document, 8-page, her own handwriting, where she speaks of what Jesus told her directly. And she says, today at Holy Communion, I heard him say. This is where she writes. Today at Holy Communion, I heard him say. What is she here?
In these revelations, Jesus called her my little spouse. He entrusted a new mission to her, a new vocation. It was a call within a call.
Jesus said, I want free nuns covered with the poverty of the cross. I want obedient nuns covered with the obedience of the cross. I want full of love nuns covered with the charity of the cross. Will you refuse to do this for me?
During these visions in 1946 and 47, Jesus revealed to Mother Teresa the vocation of the Missionary of Charity. Your vocation, he told her, is to love and suffer and save souls.
Interesting thing, their starting point is love. To love, then the means suffering, sacrifice, and then the result will be saving souls. Like a mother gives birth in pain, the missionaries of charity must give birth in love, in pain.
In 1948, Mother Teresa began her missionary work in the slums of Calcutta. She took Indian citizenship and chose a simple white cotton sari with a blue border as a habit. The first year was a difficult one for Teresa. She chose to be poor in order to help the poor. She had no income and had to beg for food and supplies in order to help the neediest. In the beginning of 1949, a group of young women joined Mother Teresa and laid the foundations of a new religious community with only 13 members in Calcutta. By the year of her death in 1997, the community had grown to more than 4,000 sisters, operating worldwide, running orphanages, AIDS hospices, and charity centers. Although she had mystical visions and direct communication with Jesus, Mother Teresa experienced a long-term spiritual suffering, which the doctors of the Church call dark nights. Mother Teresa's feelings of poorness and remoteness from God were for some people a sign of controversy, and for others a sign of a special blessing. Sister Mary Prema Pierik is the current Superior General of the Missionaries of Charity, the second successor to Mother Teresa herself. She told us about the real sense of the dark night.
The value of suffering by itself has no value. Only love gives it value. And we see that in the natural realm, Where there is love, there is suffering, and there is forgiveness. Where there is no love, suffering is unacceptable. So for myself in my own life, and for the sisters and for the poor, to insist and to work on loving more, which makes us more able to accept whatever God gives through suffering or through rejection or unwantedness or other hardships which come.
Since 1949 or thereabout, she herself writes that to her spiritual director. Since 1949 or about that time, she was feeling terrible darkness and dryness. And in the beginning she thought it was because of her own sinfulness, unworthiness, her own weakness and all that. Her spiritual director, Father Neuner, made her understand that it was also, as she was sharing the poverty of the poor of Calcutta, Jesus wanted her to share the poverty of the West. It was more painful, but then she realized, she said, if my darkness and dryness can be a light to some soul, let me be the first one to do that. Saint Teresa said the same thing. If my life, if my suffering is going to help souls to be saved, then I would prefer from the creation of the world to the end of time to suffer and die. So this is why the saints were in love with Jesus, love with God, and when you are in love with Jesus, and then Mother's this motto, I thirst, and that also to satiate the infinite thirst of Jesus by bringing souls to, and every breathing, every sigh, each look, each act of mine shall be an act of love divine. This was her daily prayer.
It was not easy to feel emptiness in the heart and continue to lead the congregation and give love to the poorest of the poor. Where did Mother Teresa draw the strength?
One fine morning, I was going to celebrate Mass in San Gregorio al Cielo in Rome, and one cardinal came without protocol. And he showed up, and Mother was there. It was 6:15 in the morning, the Mass at 6:30. As soon as she saw the Cardinal, she got up and she rang the bell. And then he celebrated the Mass, and I celebrated with him. And then after the Mass, the Cardinal asked her, Mother Teresa, you are getting old. Where do you get all this strength from? She said, you made me strong this morning. How come? How did I do that? She said, you celebrated the Mass, you gave me Holy Communion, and so Jesus is in me, Jesus is with me. So the presence of Jesus and the Blessed Sacrament, it was very important for her to continue her work. And she saw this way, like Mary received Jesus in the bread of life, at the Annunciation. The angel Gabriel came to her, and with Jesus, Mary went to her cousin Elizabeth. Every MC will receive Jesus in the bread of life and go like Mary to share that joy and with Jesus to the people, and especially the poorest of the poor. In fact, Jesus told her in 1947, I cannot go alone to the poor people. You carry me with you into them.
Stay with us. After the break, we'll be back with more on Vaticano. Thanks for watching. This is Vaticano. Mother Teresa, being a small and simple nun from Calcutta, became famous and well-known worldwide. She received many international awards, among them the 1979 Nobel Peace Prize.
She was very aware, and she said that, I receive any award, including the Nobel Prize, in the name of Jesus, because it is He. It is His work that I am doing. It's like, I am employed by, if you want, in the human terms, she felt that she was employed by Jesus. She took it she was a spouse, In fact, Jesus Himself says that in His locutions, you are my little spouse. spouse of Jesus crucified. It is his own words to her. Every time, you are my little spouse, come be my light. You carry me with you into the people.
She started the famous speech at the Nobel Prize Congress by saying a Hail Mary. In her address, she spoke of the material poverty in the Western world. She mentioned the many people with spiritual poverty who feel unwanted, unloved, and terrified. She continued saying that the greatest destroyer of peace today is abortion. If a mother can kill her own child, she said, what is left for me to kill you and you to kill me? There's nothing in between.
One journalist asked her, Mother Teresa, you have received so many awards and honorary doctorates, even the Nobel Prize after this. And he asked, what was the most important day in your life? She said, today. Because she lived today. Because she said, yesterday I don't have, it's finished. Tomorrow is still to come. But what I have is today. And then I have enough time to love God and serve my neighbor, especially the poorest of the poor. And so her spirituality was centered around today.
Even during her lifetime, Mother Teresa was considered one of the greatest humanitarians of the 20th century, and after her death she continues to be influential in the world. She is the subject of children's cartoons, books, and movies, and is on coins and stamps. In the celebration of the canonization of this Holy Sister, the Permanent Observer Mission of the Holy See to the United Nations headquarters in New York hosted an exhibition and conference dedicated to her words, witness, and works.
I believe, and we believe, that she has so much to say to the world today, especially to the United Nations. Her canonization came, or has come, because it's such a recent event, after what we have called the Sustainable Development Goals, in which really, in the end, it's about leaving no one behind. So it's a kind of Mother Teresa's life and work was all about leaving no one behind. And this just fits very well into the theme of practically the dominant theme during the last 3 years at the United Nations, during negotiations and during the adoption of what we call the goals, whose overarching objective is really the fight to eliminate extreme poverty.
I believe it's more relevant than ever, and it's not by chance that it was seated or it was placed into the Year of Mercy, because I believe that if we lose the sight of the goodness of men, if we only become functional and I would say mechanics, then the tissue of society will fall apart.
They need our understanding love. They need our respect. They need that we treat them with dignity.
Her speeches are incredibly relevant. In fact, at the event today, portions of her speeches were played, and they were more relevant in some cases than when they were given. One of the speeches that was played was from 2004, where she talked about the poverty of the West, about the poverty of loneliness, of emptiness, the poverty of putting our selfish desires over that of the unborn, the innocent, the helpless, given the situation in the world in 2006, her words actually have more meaning and more weight than they did 12 years ago when she delivered them.
Since September of 2013, the anniversary of her death has been designated as the International Day of Charity by the United Nations General Assembly. The world-renowned Teresa of Calcutta was a sign of hope for her native Albanian people at the difficult time of totalitarianism. Mr. Vizar Siti is an Albanian writer and politician. He spent 26 years in prisons and concentration camps for his work and political views. Mother Teresa was a big help and inspiration for Mr. Vizar during his trials. Currently, he is Albanian ambassador to the Holy See. Almost everyone claimed that we made Mother Teresa up in order to challenge the regime and say that we were able to produce people with a worldwide reputation. And I almost thought the same thing, but afterwards I discovered that Mother Teresa was invented by God. by God to challenge the regime, to challenge the dictators, to challenge indifference. Pope John Paul II decided not to wait the standard 5 years before starting her beatification process after Mother Teresa's death. In July of 1999, the Vatican's Congregation for the Causes of Saints appointed Father Brian Koledejchuk as postulator, and the process towards recognizing her sainthood began.
We had 113 witnesses, and I came to Rome with roughly 35,000 pages, 81 volumes of roughly 450 pages each. And that was the raw data, which is actually very good. You know, I think it was providential that we were able to do the cause so soon, and so everything was fresh. People still had their memories. Documents were available.
The miracle that was decisive in the beatification process happened in India in 2002. An Indian woman named Monica Besra was healed from a tumor in the abdomen after the application of a medallion containing Mother Teresa's picture. Dr. Seba Bardhan from Calcutta was a part of the medical commission that was charged with studying the miracle. The doctors had to explain this fast recovery from a scientific point of view.
I had to do a lot of research on this to find out the truth about how the tumor could, just go away in a few seconds. And it took me a toil of more than few months, where the patient, Monica Besra, had to come to my clinic and had to re-examine her, and I had to do all over the investigations I had to do with her, and I want to check on completely what is the situation now and how I am going to give my opinion. I took the opinion of many doctors also, because I felt like I was very concentrated to my domain. So I had to talk with many doctors of different speciality, and who were the top doctors of Calcutta. And then I had to come to the conclusion that this is something which I cannot explain to the medical terms.
Doctors are only asked their medical opinion. Like for the first miracle in India, in Calcutta, we had 11 witnesses, and 10 were Hindu doctors and 1 Catholic. So the doctors, they may have an opinion whether it's a miracle or not, but they're not asked that.
On October the 19th, 2003, Mother Teresa was beatified by Pope John Paul II. 5 years later, in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, the second miracle attributed to the intercession of Blessed Mother Teresa happened.
The miracle was a man, mechanical engineer, who was diagnosed in September with a bacterial infection in the brain, which led to multiple abscesses, and that caused hydrocephaly. So the abscesses were blocking the water, the liquid on the brain, from going where it's supposed to go.
Marcílio and Fernanda were just married when Marcílio suddenly started to feel ill.
No dia 9 de dezembro, acordei com uma forte dor de cabeça.
And on December 9th, I woke up with a strong headache, unbearable. I couldn't speak, but I asked my wife and told her, "Pray for me, because my head is bursting."
Eu tinha uma relíquia da Madre que eu havia ganhado.
I had a relic of Mother Teresa that the parish priest had given me before getting married. I put the relic on Marcílio's head where he had the abscesses. I recited the prayer of beatification and also what came from my heart.
Simplesmente acordei no centro cirúrgico.
I woke up in the operating room without the headache. I looked around and I asked, "What am I doing here?"
Quando eu retornei no hospital no dia seguinte,
When, the day after, I returned to the hospital, the doctor was waiting for me with Marcílio's parents. He told me that he was stable and that he had returned to his room. He didn't tell me that he was cured, but I already knew it strongly from what I had prayed to God through the intercession of Mother Teresa.
Eu e a Fernanda éramos recém-casados.
When I began to feel sick, Fernanda and I had been recently married. The doctor told me that we wouldn't have been able to have children because of the treatments, which I would have had to undergo. 1 month after the transfer to Rio, Fernanda began to have nausea. We went to the doctor, and when he told us she's pregnant, we responded, "It can't be."
Eu sinto uma gratidão.
I feel an enormous gratitude when I see Marsilio and our children. I thank God and Mother Teresa each time I look at them. Each time I see them, my gratitude grows. I am sure that all the prayers were heard by God and that He always gives us His love.
Before the eyes of the whole world, Pope Francis proclaimed Mother Teresa a saint on September the 4th, 2016. About 150,000 people from all over the world gathered in Rome. 15 official government delegations and 1,500 homeless people were among them, witnessing how the little flower, Agnes Gonch, became a great saint, Teresa of Calcutta, the mother of the poorest of the poor.
Thank you.